Welcome to Side Notes. I'm your host, Reginald Argue. I'm sitting here in the Toronto City Hall with Councillor Pasternak.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for taking your time for us. First question I have to ask you is that, you went to Western University, you also went to the School of Economics in London, and you also went to York University. Before you became a councillor, you were a school trustee. You dealt with a budget of $2.6 billion. How do you feel that that's helped you when it came to the budget here in City Hall being almost $10 billion?
Well, certainly by spending 4 years on Canada's largest school board, you learn a lot about making decisions, about allocating funds to programming, respect for the public dollars, but also understanding the great needs that we have, whether it's in special education, after-school programming, snack or lunch programs, specialty teaching positions. So we have an enormous responsibility, and that provided a great background to when I came to City Hall in 2010.
And when you were a city councillor, you were also working with the former mayor of Toronto, I think within the Toronto land, David Cromley with his name. What were you doing in that position anyway?
Yeah, I sat for 1 year on the board of the Toronto Lands Corporation, and that is the real estate arm of the Toronto District School Board. Toronto District School Board is one of the largest landholders in Ontario, with 550 operating sites and another 100 that aren't. So we were sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars of property that was either vacant or there was nobody in the building. And we needed funds to help fix up what we had. So that was former Mayor Crombie's responsibility to chair the Toronto Lands Corporation and try and identify real estate that was no longer needed by the school board.
And what were some of the programs you feel at this time still need to be addressed within the school board in regards to, programs for children that have special needs, adult education, youth education, and stuff like that?
Well, I've said for many years that if we want to solve the dropout rate, if we want to solve much of the alienation and potential law enforcement problems and crime, and the effects that has on those in high schools, we have to pour a massive amount of resources of special ed at the high school level. It tends to drift off considerably through middle school and into high school, and you need those supports day in and day out in the classroom. It's expensive, but you pay a much higher price if you don't put those funds in, because these people will become marginalized, alienated, and leave our system. Secondly, mass resources into special needs at the lower levels. Complex exceptionalities in kids these days, and we need a flexible system that provides the education supports even at the young level for kids with extreme exceptionalities.
And since you become a councillor, one of the things I noticed you're involved with helping improve the transit system. I know for decades it seems like the transit system in Toronto hasn't been invested into properly to bring it up to a world level like a city like Boston and other cities. What are the steps you feel need to be done to address not only the shortage of buses, but also the expanding the subway line?
Yeah, there's no doubt that the greatest crisis we have in Toronto right now is our transit system. We've only opened up 6 stations in 25 years. Many cities much smaller than ours have surpassed us in transit. How do we get this done? We need to allocate a minimum of $300 million a year, 1 kilometer a year of digging. We need strong partners at the provincial and federal level, and we've got to put in a minimum of 25 kilometers of track over the next 25 years. And we've got more transit in the ground right now than we've had in a generation, but we want to make sure that when those projects are finished, that it doesn't grind to a halt for another 20 years. We've got to keep going.
And also something that's extremely important is accessibility within the city of Toronto. I noticed you just handed me the stopgap program that you're involved with. You want to talk a little bit about this?
Sure. This is a great concept where businesses, retail outlets, or offices can get a free temporary ramp so that their clients or customers can access it. Either those in a wheelchair, or those who have accessibility or mobility issues. Stopgap is something that I supported at the school board, and that it's something that I've supported at City Hall, and it's conversations like this that make Toronto a world leader in accessibility. It's not the only solution, but it's certainly a creative idea that I think we should support.
And you're also involved with a committee here in the city of Toronto. I know that you were talking about a gentleman who's also involved with you. Do you want to talk a little bit about that too?
Well, the Disability Issues Committee was dormant, and I worked with Councillor Vaughan to bring a motion to council to reactivate it. And this is a committee that provides advice to councillors, to Toronto City Council, and standing committees on issues affecting those with disabilities. So we were successful at council in bringing the motion, bringing the committee back to life. I worked with a couple of colleagues to interview candidates who wanted to volunteer their time on the committee. The interviews were fantastic, and we've got a really bright team working that committee now.
And one thing I noticed also on your videos or on your website, you were talking about 1972 and the memories you had of the summit in regards when we played against the Soviet Union. You were mentioning in one of your videos, you were in your teenage years and you went to the first game in Montreal. You want to talk a little bit about that? I know I was only 5 years old that time, so I don't really have memories of that summit series.
Well, look, I mean, there was a feeling that that this would be a pretty easy time for the Canadian team. That it was an 8-game exhibition series. Very exciting going into the game, but when we were walking out, there was a real feeling that the Canadians were out of shape and outplayed, and that there was still a lot of work to do. And then the feeling was that by the time they got to Russia and those final few games, they were in shape, they were sharp. They knew how to beat the Russians, and that's why the series ended up the way they did. But it was a great memory. My parents went to Russia for the 4 games there, and we watched like millions of other Canadians on TVs in our classrooms.
What was your thoughts going through your mind when you saw Paul Henderson score the winning goal?
Well, it was one of those most remarkable sporting moments for Canadians because. Never discount the last few seconds of a sporting event, especially hockey, and things are always more exciting when the finish is close. We remember it very well because it was so close and because we almost lost. If we had swept all 8 games, I don't think it would resonate as much as it certainly has. But to this day, people who were there, who lived it, who watched it, just brings back great memories.
And with Toronto being the biggest city in Canada, and actually probably one of the most diverse cities, you're investing in festivals like TIFF and the Pride Parade in Caribbean, and the list goes on and on. What other events do you feel need to be done? Because I noticed that you and I and my wife, we met up at this event you had in York Centre. So what other events you feel need to be done in order to promote the local talent within Toronto?
Yeah, well, we have a very downtown-centric city, but there's great enthusiasm for the arts and culture, athletics, and the outdoors in the suburban wards. Ward 10, my ward, has a great history of arts and culture. The Earl Bales first annual Arts and Music Festival was a great success, great talent, beautiful weather, amazing artists and artisans, and this is the kind of enthusiasm we have to grow in our wards. And my goal is to really make Ward 10 a great arts center in the city, and we're on that road.
And finally, the one question I wanted to ask you, what steps you feel need to be improved in regards to the city of Toronto, let's say, maybe to help with housing or social programs or other things that need to be done drastically within Toronto, you feel?
What are the city's top priorities
Yes,
going forward?
top
Well, we
priorities.
mentioned transit.
Yeah.
Clearly, we have to be fully committed to a new generation of funding for transit. It has to be fully accessible, it has to be affordable, and it has to go into more and more neighborhoods. And it's easy to throw buses at the situation, but we really need subway building. Where are the other priorities? Clearly, housing continues to be a great challenge. We're the largest landlord in the country, and we have somewhere in the vicinity of 75,000 people on our waiting list. So we need to make more units accessible. We need to fix up what we have. We need to re-sign new funding agreements with the provincial and federal governments. And then when it comes to other priorities, aging infrastructure is clearly a need, whether it's with our sewage system, our water system, or our hydro system. Constantly have to reinvest in that, and our roads as well. So aging infrastructure, a transit system, and of course we want to invest greatly in the arts, making sure that Toronto is known as the arts capital of Canada.
And do you want to leave your website so if people want to ask any additional questions, that way they can send you an email?
Sure. My website is jamespasternak.ca. My phone number is 416-392-1371. We run events in the ward on a regular basis. You can always follow us on Twitter or Facebook. And any questions or suggestions that your viewers have, we'd be happy to work on. But we're very active and we're very excited about the work we're doing. And it's just a very exciting time in Toronto and city building.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for coming to City Hall.